These books are not for everybody. I'm reading them so you don't have to. Today we're going through the first tales from the Pizzaplex book Lally's Game, and we're going to talk about the first story called Frailty. I'm only going through the most important parts because there's a lot of stuff that happens in these stories and there's no way to fit it all in 3 minutes. So, we begin with a kid. He gets in a car accident and he's dead. The EMTs can't save him, so they're talking about how they had to take him to the hospital or the morgue. And then a figure comes up from the woods beside where the car accident happens and pulls out a knife. They see this and they yell at the figure, it runs away, and then they go check on the body and the kid is now alive. Then we got to Jessica. Jessica's mopping at a hospital. She's the main character of our story. And we find out that Jessica is a really kind of boring person. She doesn't do a lot. She does go to the chapel in the church to pray, though, and when she goes to pray, we find out something big about her. There's something that happened in her past that she is really, really regretful for. She feels like she is not allowed to live a fulfilling and happy life because of what happened, so she's been working at the hospital for these last few months, basically just literally giving her life force to these patients. We also find out Jessica was the one that was leaning over the body with a knife because she has this little metal heart pendant that something or someone gifted her that allows her to shave off like pieces of it onto people who are sick and lend her life force out to them, and she believes that is her life purpose. A lot of the people at the hospital thinks that she's really weird, but she does her job, so it really doesn't matter. And we also find out that no one at school really likes her, is friends with her, because she's weird. But a new kid comes to school and his name's Robert. He seems really nice. He's really nice to Jessica. He's the only person that will really talk to her. And they end up being partners for a project for like a robotics or engineering class. And they end up making a robot together. We also learn that Jessica has an aversion to like metal junk and like touching metal. She doesn't like it at all in any capacity except for like her necklace, which comes into play later. So they make their robot, it's very successful, and Robert starts getting feelings for her, and she kind of starts liking him as well. So then he asks her to prom, and she's stuck in like this, like, she's like warring with herself basically, because she's like, I know I pretty much only have like one more opportunity to help save someone, and there's a new girl at the hospital who just came in with cancer in her blood. And Jessica's like, I could save her or I could go to prom. She has a conversation with the priest in the chapel, and the priest basically tells her you can't always give, sometimes you do have to take for yourself. Jessica takes this as a trying to go to prom. She goes to prom, Robert goes to kiss her when they're dancing, and then ends up with like motor oil and like grease all over his face, and then Jessica knows exactly what's going on. She runs back to the hospital, locks herself in the girl's room, shaves the last bit of her heart on her, and then the nurses bust in through the door, and they don't find Jessica. They find a pile of scrap metal, and then the girl's vitals have gone stable. And that is basically Frailty. These stories are not for everyone. I'm reading them so you don't have to. Today we're talking about the second story from the first tales from the Pizzaplex book, Lally's Game, entitled Lally's Game. Once again, main points, not everything. So, centers around Selena and her fiance, Cade. And Selena and Cade are moving into their new house, and the movers bring in this big old chest, and Selena's like, what is this? And Cade's like, oh, don't worry about it, it's nothing. And she's like, why did you bring it? And he's like, oh, it has sentimental value to me, but don't worry about what's in it, it's not important. And she's like, okay. So he said he'll put it in the attic. She kind of lets it go, not really, keeps it in the back of her mind. Cade's mom also lives really close to them, so they go and visit pretty frequently, and she's talking to her one day, and they pull out like a photo album. She finds a photo album, they're looking through it, and she's like, oh, baby Cade, so cute. And then she sees pictures of Cade as a child at Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex, and she thinks this is really weird because he has never once mentioned this to her, but apparently it was his favorite place as a kid. He went all the time, and his mom was telling him, his mom was telling her about all this stuff, and she was just like, well, Cade's never said anything to me about it. And then his mom starts telling her that his favorite game was called Lally's Game, and it was basically like hide and seek. You could play it with 2 people, or you could play with the little doll if it was only 1 person, but the game was only for 2 people. And she's like, okay, again, she thinks it's weird he's never brought it up. And then Cade's mom is like, well, one day someone stole Lally, and it really upset Cade. And she was like, okay, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. So then she's thinking, and she's like, I feel like this has something to do with the chest. I don't know why, but something was like irking her, right? So then she goes home to look for the chest. It's not in the attic where he said it was. It was in a closet in a room buried under a bunch of stuff. So she breaks it open. Right before she opens it all the way, Cade comes home. She goes downstairs and she's like, why didn't you put it where you said you were going to put it? And he was like, did you open it? She was like, what? Did you open it? What? He runs upstairs, opens it, it's empty, and Selena's like, okay, whatever. It was empty. It doesn't really matter. And then Cade's like, okay, yeah, great. Then he starts acting really weird. right? He's super suspicious, is like jumpy, does not sleep, and Selena's like, what's going on? You have to explain to me like what's happening because I don't understand what's going on right now. And then he tells her this story. Basically, some scaffolding fell at Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex, and Lally escaped. And she's like, what do you mean Lally escaped? I thought someone took him. He's like, no, he escaped and he followed me home, and then I trapped him in that thing because he wouldn't leave me alone. And she was like, okay, babe, I think you're having delusions. And he was like, no. Then one day they have friends over, and Selena goes to the garage to go get some drinks, and she turns her head and she sees Lally in the garage. She runs out and is like, sorry, I have to borrow Kate for a minute. Brings it back in. He's like, what are you bringing me here to see? Lally's gone. And she's like, I saw him. And then Kate's like, oh, great. Okay, so good thing you believe me, but where is he? Then eventually Selena does find out that some kid died in Lally's game, and she's like runs home. She goes to pack her suitcase because she's like, I think Cade killed him. And then she hears some noises downstairs, and she's like, what the heck? Goes to investigate the noises. There's nothing there. She ends up knocking out Cade because he tries to keep her quiet, runs upstairs, hides in the closet, and then Lally kills her. And then the story ends with Cade and his new fiance in a different house. These stories are not for everyone. I'm reading them so you don't have to. Today we're talking about the third installment in the first Tales from the Pizzaplex book, Lally's Game, entitled Under Construction. This story centers around a girl named Maya. It's her birthday and she's at Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. And her friend tells her about this one thing that is like meant for people on their birthday. And it's like this AR experience called The World Celebrates You. And Maya gets really excited because she's like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to celebrate my birthday. And the basis of this augmented reality thing is you get this big old like glass globe looking thing where you can see the entire Pizzaplex when you get in, and you put on this headband and it like has special points that help the augmented reality kind of have a more real feel. And then it was just like the entire Pizzaplex throws you a birthday party, and Maya has a great time. She loves it. And then she takes off the headband and goes home, and you know, she has her birthday party the next day at home, and it's a lot more low-key. Her family doesn't really have a lot of money, so she loves what they can give her, and she enjoys her birthday. But she did miss the kind of extravagance of the birthday party she had at Freddy Fazbear's. But Maya starts getting these headaches shortly after in like the places where the AR headband was touching her head, and they just kind of persist. They don't go away. So soon everyone starts getting cancer. Everyone except for Maya. And like her grandparents get it and they die. More grandparents get it. It's not even anyone close to her. It's the entire world. The entire world is dying of cancer. And then the new children that are born are growing at a crazy rate. And they don't even look like kids. They're just like basically gelatinous globs. And they like self-replicate. It's really hard to explain. And it's really weird. But the weird thing about everyone getting cancer is nobody really cares. Maya seems to be the only person reacting in an appropriate way to this. No one else has any concern for it. So we flash forward a few years. Pretty much everyone she knows has died, and she's taking care of people who are still alive. And she has these thoughts that like maybe the headbands, like maybe she never really got out of AR, because how could this happen? She starts thinking about this theory that her friend talked to her about called quantum immortality, and she's like, what if I'm in another reality right now? But in the end, she doesn't do anything about it, really. She tries to escape into her garage and ends up getting, like, suffocated by the gelatinous glob things. And that's where the story ends.